voices, the thin line that separates your shadows from my soul. As these walls begin to fold, head lost in the silence, cold stars illuminate the secrets on your tongue and the poison in my lungs. Where every passage ends, a new road begins. The further I descend, your labyrinth. Blind eyes in the darkness, frail hands reaching out, sword echoes in the smoke as the doors behind me close. No cure.
Welcome back. I've got a friend this time. Hi,
Oh.
Chamberine.
Hi, I'm here. I've made it just in time. Just in time.
Should we look at the map that we're going to? We got 1EC
You did?
Frankfurt versus Old and
Yeah.
Gold, ready for us here. So let's see where we're going to be going,
Yes, let's have a look.
and it's going to be absolutely perfect. Another chalet. I've just soloed 12 rounds of this, so
I can hear
oh,
the
cool.
objectification in your voice. I know that I know that you're struggling after that, but it's okay. I'm here to do some heavy lifting. I'll let your voice, rest a little bit. Mine's a little bit shaky. I've been casting for like 4 days in a row, so mine's a little bit shaky. But I'm excited to go. I'm excited to go for Talon. We've been off for a week, and we're back.
Yeah.
We're ready to go, and I'm hoping it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, well, that's always the hope, isn't it? We don't want a snooze fest for a Tuesday evening because
Mhm.
I certainly would. I've been having a very sleepy couple of days. I might just sleep on broadcast if that was the case. Obviously, not the recommended thing to do, but
No, it's not. But it is. It is what it is. We're going to Chalet, one of the most picked maps, of course. This will be the 9th time now, actually, looking at the map statistics. It's been played 7 times already. And I mean, to be fair, this is just across both major and minor. It's going to be the 4th time. Well, actually, if you count yours, technically the 5th time that Chalet has been played. So it's a pretty popular map, to be honest, Coot.
yeah, that is for sure. And we're seeing a very, very similar ban phase. We've got Dokkaebi, Ying, and Solus being taken away. If we've got the Azami, then it's honestly just a complete replica of the previous map that I just did. And no, it's going to be Frost.
Well, that makes things a little bit interesting. You don't really get this Frost band, let's be honest. It's a good band. I like the Frost band. I think she's in a good place in the meta. She's got obviously the Frost traps that are due to be reworked. You can think about that on another day. I don't think it necessarily needs it, but it is what it is. Due to be reworked, of course. But in the minute, extended Barra 1.5, pretty tasty operator. So I can see the appeal of banning the Frost at least.
Yeah, for sure. But that does mean that you do have Azami left open. You also have Valkyrie left open as well. 2 very, very strong defenders. However, we're seeing... I feel like I've gone back in time here, Chan. We've got a Maestro.
That is, the Maestro double up with the Valk as well. I mean, info is king technically in Siege, so I mean, I'm not surprised to see people play on it, but I'm surprised if people double up on that much, especially given that Maestro isn't in the greatest spot at the minute.
No, I mean, you do have the Alder, a weapon that will continuously, for all time, go brr.
Yep.
But Is it worth bringing along? I'm not necessarily too sure about that one. However, we do have kitchen dining, which is a site that we didn't see across all 12 rounds of the previous map. So to see it being brought along here means we do, for today at least, get the world tour of Chalet. Heading over to the French Alps, we get the full package, as you will.
Yeah, I mean, Chalet's a good map. Chalet is a good, consistent map, and the thing is, as well, is the reason it's became more prevalent, kind of like Oregon, it's because it's so tried and tested. Like, everybody knows how to attack it, everybody knows how to defend it. You know, if the site's going to be in master site, yeah, let's go from library, let's clear it through, open a breach, blah 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 blah. Same goes for if the site is the other side, Baron Gaming, let's clear from solar, blah, 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 and you just go through. So that's why you see the best of ones. So it is what it is. You're going to see these maps quite a lot when it comes to the best of ones, because teams just don't want to show too much. They want to go to the places where they don't have to go into that strat book, and they want to get something where both teams are going to be comfortable with when it comes to the strats, and that means that it can just come down to the 1v1s and the gunfights and stuff like that as well. So, I mean, I do notice that there has been a little bit of a roster change. I believe Old Gold have changed a few things. I think there's a few people that have dropped out. Just more on that subject in a few minutes, though, because Kraugo is able to open up the scoreboard inside this match and finds the kill onto the Warden of all things, and that's GSR taken off the board, and now things have lulled out a little bit. A minute and a half, of course, left on the round, and the attackers will just get a feel for the rest of this map here.
Yeah, and it's going to be a good start for the attack. Obviously, you want to have everyone on the opposing team dead necessarily, but it's a good first step for it. And Satan is going to be in a pretty tough spot here on the trophy stairs. Just caught between a rock and a hard place. Can't necessarily get too aggressive up towards the windows because they will get caught out there, and there is a player watching across from the trophy window as well. Especially the Old and Gold have this man advantage. They can afford to so allocate those resources to that situation. The C4 goes out, but it was the EMP that comes through first of all, and Satan now just has to dip, weave, and dodge their way out the way, but the C4 is now well and truly gone. Another nade comes through, and Greta does connect that time. This time, it's actually from underneath, meaning it's a two-player advantage, and with only 30 seconds left, Old and Gold look to be in a good spot. They just need to get a wriggle on, because the longer they keep stalling this out, the better Frankfurt are going to be.
Yeah, of course, the site is inside of kitchen. You can see that Hatfell is playing just inside of there. They're now waiting for the hop into that trophy window, which will likely come because there is only 50 seconds on the clock, and the execute has to come in. And this is essentially going to be a freebie unless the flick of the wrist is there. But Comma's going to be downed on the other side, courtesy of an Aldo. But Hatfell also is going to get that hop in. And look at this.
Wow!
For Matto, and it's all just fell apart. Just can't convert the rest of that round. And Greta with the final kill is the one to fall. And look at that. It's a full swing all the way around. Frankfurt are able to take the first round.
Well, there's the Alda.
Yep.
Just you hold down left click and you're basically a defensive turret. That was definitely around. Old and Gold, they just took too long in that situation. You know, it came down to 30 seconds and they still didn't really have much control. They still hadn't even entered really onto the top floor. It just seemed like they just weren't really prepared to actually have to attack. I know that sounds a bit harsh, Jam, but I mean, I'm not really too sure what else. They just kind of we got talking on any kind of tangents, and they just kind of sat there, not letting us get focused into the game.
It's one of those ones where you do really great work in the opening and you know, the early round and whatnot, and then they just couldn't organise and execute. And I think it was maybe something to do just with the fact that it was the kitchen site. They didn't really know how to execute, and they were almost in the wrong positions. There was too many people on the trophy side, really, because most of the executes for a kitchen one don't really come from that side. Usually they come from that fireplace. Usually you open up that wall, use maybe smokes or whatever, just to try and get yourself up towards the default plant behind that main kind of dining chair area. So that's usually where it comes from. It's quite surprising to see most of the attack coming from the other side, and they really just picked off because of that. And I think it was just, they maybe just caught out, have a sneak suspicion that they kind of thought it was the top floor, and then they realised that they took a bit too late, that it was actually the bottom floor, and then they couldn't really adjust the execute, just weren't ready for it. Didn't really matter that they had the man advantage, and fortunately they threw it away. We didn't really discuss it as well in the round. The last round there was a Brava played. I didn't really see it used to its full potential. I've seen
No.
it flashed a couple of times here and there through comp and Pro League and whatnot, but I haven't really seen it used to its full potential, to be honest.
No, I certainly agree with you. I think Brava is just not being used the right way by the attacking teams, and it's all dependent on the defensive setup right here. I don't think there's necessarily a point to use a Brava, although we do see an Azami being brought along. We'll just put a pin in that one for the second, because thinking about the Brava, like, what really can you do? You can take over default cams, but, like, cool, bring a Dokkaebi, because then you have all of them. Like, that's what most teams kind of use her for, and it just seems like it's just entirely misplayed. However, thinking about the Azami, this is where that's going to come in handy. The frag grenades, just trying to clear it, and this is why we see Azami banned out so often, just because it's such a utility sink. And it's just even more than that. You can just remodel the entire bomb site, get some really cheeky angles. Especially when you're defending Bar Gaming, this library becomes much more difficult to attack when you've got a whole bunch of keeper barriers staring you in the face. However, it's Emil that finds the first, and it's a quick rush back onto the bomb site. Stizzy with a diffuser, marches into Connector, finds the kill onto Hapful as well. It's a 3 versus 4 now, making a 3 versus 3 as Satan and JSR find one back apiece, and the vertical control is in the hands of Old and Gold. They can't get this diffuser down. Emil does nearly find one, but Stizzy did have the diffuser, found himself down. So panic stations now for Old and Gold. They have to try and reclaim that diffuser. Greta does find that kill, but the players do have the vertical control, and that's what Matto is going to capitalize with. The smoke grenades come through to just make sure that they just cannot be seen. However, Emil does not feel confident, and the revive is going to come through, Cham. Greta does get the overwatch, but you still have JSR down below. 30 seconds left, and Old and Gold well and truly have messed this one up.
Yeah, they've let it slip all the way to a 2 versus 2 here, and now 2 versus 1
That's
as Emil just
upstairs.
funnels in the doorway and doesn't realise Battle's lying in wait inside a library. They had the vertical control, and they had at least something in the round, and they've just threw it all away. Greta using the nades to try and clear at the top floor, but it's looking like too little, too late, because JSR still lurks down below, and I think he's maybe going to get himself a freebie if he goes down that staircase. Greta just can't decide what to do. Do we go for the plant? Do we try and get some kills? But there's not enough time, and the defenders win on time alone.
Utter catastrophe inside of that round, and I'm going to say it, that was woeful. Every player just kind of ignores the top, they get the top floor control, and then they all just drop, and they rush in. Cool, fair enough. Stizzy finds a pick. Go for the plant. There's no need to get more aggressive there, and because every player dipped away, they can just rotate back up, and then they have top floor control, and then you're in the complete opposite situation. There's a reason that the attack likes to have control of library when attacking Bar Gaming, and because if you have the top floor control, the defenders cannot properly play in the bomb site. So when those positions are reversed, you just can't plant. There's absolutely nothing you can do, and they just, bit of indecision. They still have 30 seconds, and everyone's still just farting about on site going, what do we do? Like, it's, you have to do something there. You can't just sit still and hope that the problem goes away.
Yeah, I fully agree. I think that they just caught themselves in their head for a wee second, because they got control of sight so easily, and I think it was like almost one of those ones where you just kind of expect a bit more resistance, you expect to maybe lose a few members, expect to take a few gunfights, and they just never really did. They just got the site for free, and then they kind of wasted the opportunity to use it because they were just waiting for something to happen, like you mentioned, and nothing ever did. Eventually, the round just collapses underneath them, and Frankfurt are 2 in the lead, and it's not really been all that convincing. It's been Old and Gold really that have made the mistakes, unfortunately, that have led to that. Of course, credit to Frankfurt for getting those kills and landing those shots and making sure that they can get it. Matto, of course, having a wonderful time on library, did manage to hold onto that corner as much as possible. Was also able to reclaim library at the same time, and that meant that they then were able to win the round. And just a missed opportunity there for Old Gold. And I think they'll maybe rue that a little bit later on in the game, unless they start bucking up their ideas a little bit.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We kind of said that both rounds so far, that realistically we should probably be looking at 2-0 to Old and Gold right now. Like, both of those rounds they had in their grasp, and they just kind of let it slip away from them in the final few moments, although that one maybe a little bit earlier in the round. However, that didn't happen, so we just have to build off of that. Old and Gold, they can't let this one slip away as well. If it's 3-0, then it's looking pretty dangerous, obviously. Well, that's not going to help. Satan finds the opener with the C4. And, you know, in that last game, we saw a 4-0 start for Goldinis before Chillwagon were able to bring it back. So getting that early lead does help because it ended up in a 7-5.
Yeah, I mean, they've lost one of the hard breach as well. They do luckily still have the thermite available if they need it, though, and you see Satan just waiting for the spring to come around, does spot the player, but it is not enough. Look at that, the trade comes through. It's great to find Satan, and JSR also falls to Emil at the same time. Sale is going to find Emil, and it's a 3 versus 3 scenario just like that. A 1-2 punch on either side, and we're looking like a scenario that kind of favours the defenders at the minute. They don't really have much map control that they can really do anything with at the minute. The attackers, they do have a little angle in towards Wine, but Sale is able to lock that off versus Greta and deals with the push that was coming through from that side. On the hatch as well, we have the lurk from Bandit, and the swing coming on towards Sale, takes a little bit of damage, but is able to escape the clutches of the push as well. Hatfall, though, is going to find Stizzy, and now Kraugel has it all to do on side for Old and Gold, but is spotted on that reinforcement with Sale going massive and getting himself another kill on the round, and it looks as though Frankfurt are looking a bit more comfortable in that round. At least it wasn't a throw from Old and Gold. They were much better there. And it looks as though they deserve to be in that 3-0 lead now.
Yeah, but a problem again, you can't really attack onto Wine if you don't have the control of the hatch, right? Because especially if it's open, it just gets such a good angle, and that's what Habsful kind of relied upon, was the lines of sight that the hatch provided. So when you have, in those last few seconds, you've got the Bandit just upstairs in kitchen on the hatch, there's not really much they could do. They kind of just have to go for a Hail Mary, try and push in deeper, but instead, they just got caught out before they could even go for that. But like you said, very comfortable round there, I feel like, from Frankfurt. It was certainly the first one that's actually felt a proper round win. Obviously, you know, a win is a win, but that one felt substantial. I was going to say meaty, but that's not quite.
Yeah, I don't know if that truly encapsulates how it felt, but yeah, they're on the round. They're on the round. They look a bit more comfortable there. It wasn't, you know, so much, you know, a couple of players getting a good couple of kills and Old and Gold missing opportunities. It looked as though Frankfurt had control of the round. They were in good positions, nice and early on, and then they maintained that throughout the entire time. They used utility well as the start as well, because they were able to land a couple of C4 kills, which is always nice. You always want to make the most out of those, and they have brought one alongside as well in the Warden. Hatfield takes a little bit of early damage there, just going for a little early gunfight inside of Car Garage, but is going to be able to escape the clutches of any of those attackers that could be rushing in behind us. No one is going to go in for that kill as of yet. Greta has the cross angle, waiting for any push to come through that doorway, but is not going to be given that opportunity from Hatfield, who's just opted to get himself out of that situation. Comma, though, gets himself onto this rappel just to make sure they can cut any rotates on that top floor, but there is going to be no one up there that is going to really take this fight at all. They're not really going to peek in towards a rappel in Capital. It's not really something you want to take on. They're just going to wait. They have the reinforcements up there. Of course, the site is indeed kitchen again. We have been here before, and this time they're going to try and clear from the top and get a control of that vertical. The run out, though, is going to come, and Comma is there to capitalise on that. Hatful misses the shots, and it's the para of the Capital that gets the first kill inside of round 4.
I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of that run out. I think the only player kind of around this side is Comma, and you just, I don't know, seemed a little bit overconfident, maybe a little bit desperate from Frankfurt, but either way, Greta's down rather low. However, that's not going to help. It's a double kill from Comma to start things out, and there's Greta with nearly one. Comma does find a triple, though. As the nade comes up, that's almost certainly going to collect, and indeed it does. JSR now alone against the world in a 1 versus 5. Doesn't necessarily know of the position on the window. Does take out Emil. And that's a Brava going down. Still 4 more left to find. Kitchen is the bomb site. It's not necessarily in a position to collect. The vertical position, though, does come through. That's your buck down, but now they're aware of the position that the Warden has control of. And indeed, it's going to be the kill from Greta. 2 in the round from them. And that's now going to be the first on the board, I think, from the attacking side, Old and Gold.
Yep. one finally locked off, and that is usually the hardest one, of course. You know that it makes it a little bit easier. You know, settles the nerves. It makes yeah, we can definitely get something on the board here. We can feel a bit more comfortable and start to play a little bit looser, not as tense. And I think that's probably what we'll see going in these next couple of rounds. The Brava coming through again from Emil, and of course we talked about it in the first round that it wasn't really used to the full potential that you can bring in. Personally, I like to see the Brava used as almost like a knock substitute, where you kind of hit the back side. You have your 4 teammates going from the main breach or whatever it is, whatever push you're going for, and then the Brava goes up from maybe solar in this instance and whatnot, and comes from that side. Well, it's if it's a master side, just to come up from behind, and then they can deal with any banshees that are maybe there, EDDs, anything that's there for that sound cue for the defenders. But an area that they're not really paying attention to, the Brava can get them. I feel can get the most potential out of her and the most usage to get rid of any of those gadgets that would be there just to give away the position of anyone hitting the back of the site. I'd like to see it, but you mentioned that most people just use it for the default cams, to be honest.
Yeah, and I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of that. Looking at the defensive lineup, the only one I can maybe think of is Valkyrie cameras, because obviously if it's a Dokkaebi, the defenders have access as well, whereas the Valk cams are almost too valuable for the defense to be given that risk, right?
Yeah.
You do either want to just take them off the board or have them completely under your control. However, that being said, that's it. Maybe an ADS or two, maybe a Banshee as well, just to provide a flank watch. But again, it depends on where the defense have positioned up. You've got to have very specific circumstances for that to actually really work in your favour as the attack.
Yeah, well, this is what I mentioned. I like to see the Brava getting used as that kind of backside push, because there's likely a Melusi, a Banshee, floating away on some doorway somewhere where they're just waiting for the sound cue for the push. That's likely what they're wearing, because 9 times out of 10, Ash will, walk into that Melusi, shoot it, great. They won't really die usually, but it'll mean that you'll have to change the push, because the defenders will have that sound cue that there is someone around that area. The Brava, though, would avert that, so you're able to get rid of it, though. The first kill in the round, though, is going to be going towards Kral, going to find GSR, and Great at the same time is able to find Hatfall, and it's a very quick double kill to come through. And just after, what was a pretty, lackadaisy first minute, they're able to get a couple of kills on the board, and Old and Gold are in control so far, but they haven't really established much map control to actually get themselves in a position to go for an execute as of yet. Great, though, looking for anyone on the top floor, and there is still a Jaeger lurking up there, but there's some pings coming out for Mattel to try and send the C4 up onto someone, and it will be dispatched, and it will find Greta, so has been able to utilise that C4 enough. And there's a player at the top of the staircase. I'm not sure Mattel is aware of it, but surely the sound is going to be there. There's a player right there, and he doesn't quite realise there's a player. I don't know what is going on here. Stizzy's able to get a kill, Koma gets one, and I have no idea how the Valk didn't see that. Astonishing to see that they came up that staircase, didn't realise there was a player just standing right in front of them, and now it is the Jaeger of Satan in a 1 versus 4 scenario. Stizzy, though, not in the greatest HP, but just as we mentioned, that player comes from the blue staircase and gets that final kill as the Thatcher, of course, to collect that onto the Jaeger, and another round on the board for Old and Gold. That's 2 in a row uncooked.
Yeah, they're starting to build that momentum, and these are the bomb sites that we thought last time they really should have won. So to see them come back and win them the second time around, it's at least a little bit reassuring.
Yeah.
It's not like fully, because they could have 4 rounds right now. But as it stands, at least they haven't fumbled the bag twice in a row. They've got a solid foundation now. And we're heading actually up to the top floor, not the basement like we did see in round number 3. So, 1EC, we've got the full tour.
Yes, we certainly have. Basement site, of course, is one of the favourite sites, especially with the Mira open, which is kind of a choice not to go there. It's one of those ones where, for me personally, I think you should try and, play to those advantages and whatnot. Then again, as the Mira in the strongest position, I think she's in a good position at the moment purely because Twitch isn't getting played, because they forced that pick onto the Brava really with the changes to our gun and whatnot, so not many people are playing Twitch anyway. So I feel like the Mira is still pretty decent, especially on the bottom floor site. But we're not going to go there anyway. There's no point talking about that. We're going to the top floor, going up to Master, and we're going to try and defend that. And they have an extension, of course, out towards that library side. The Azami that we mentioned at the start is the one holding onto that. But a team kill comes out there from Emil to Koma, and I think there was a run out and didn't quite connect at all. Emil takes a little bit of damage, but it's going to accidentally kill his teammate and inadvertently go with that one.
Not ideal. That's for sure. Understatement of the century, I know, but yeah, that's kind of inexcusable at that point. You've got to have some sort of communication. Obviously, it's kind of just a reflex, but that's your Nomad off the board. You know, flank watch opportunities are going to be severely limited now just to drones. And with a Mozzie on side, you know, there's no sort of telling what kind of disruptions that could cause, especially as Matto still has both of the pests still in pocket. Kraugel, though, has got themselves inside of Library, takes out the Prisma. Sale needs to be careful of this because otherwise they could find themselves caught out. It seems like they do know that Liana is playing around that position. We have seen the hop in and back out from one of the other players as well. I think that's possibly Greta on the sledge. And there it is. It's caught out on the reload. And now Killbox looks to be the next port of call for the guns of Old and Gold. They are just making sure that they have all of these positions cleared. This Hapful just has to run away, clear back to site. M870 in hand. It's a choice.
Yeah, I can see the cogs turning in your brain there for a sec, just as you came across that discovery that the Jaeger is in fact using the shotgun, which is definitely, like you say, a choice. So we'll see how that plays out in just a second. Old and Gold aren't in the greatest position when it comes to the HP count, at least. Emil on about 50 odd, and Stizzy down all the way down to 20, and Greta has taken a couple of licks damage, not too much though, so not that much that you would have to worry about it though. Stizzy though is at least still alive, you still have a hard reach though, very close call of course, nearly lost them, but is able to open up that wall in towards that main office area, so they can at least begin to go for an execute, and it's of course 4 versus 4, so they have a good position to do this, and this is where the Jaeger could come in clutch here. Very close, has the shotgun, so the shotgun is actually a useful gun to have in this scenario.
Yeah, especially for the position they're playing, like you say. And the time is ticking lower and lower, and Matto finds one. This is going to become infinitely more difficult the longer the timer starts to get weared down. They do know that they've got the shotgun playing close as the shots have been ringing out, but Matto did find the diffuser. Hapful does find the kill with the shotgun, and Matto from down below as well doubling down. It's Emil now left alone, and Frankfurt, they do to half.
Yep, the defenders are looking pretty comfortable, Frankfurt, there so far. You know, a couple of rounds here that are up for discussion when it comes to Old and Gold making a couple of mistakes, but of course it was early on in the game, and that's where they would be made usually. At least they've been able to iron them out a little bit. Of course, you know, after this point, they've been pretty competitive in the rounds. The 4 versus 4 there, the execute wasn't as good, but that's just, you know, maybe that's just the case sometimes on the attack side of things with Chalet. But now we head into the other side of things. The switch has taken place, and kitchen dining is where we're going to be going first, and is of course the defenders now, the side of Old and Gold. Completely blanked for a second there. I knew there was another person that had gold in the name for tonight, so I almost said Goldinis there, but it's almost a slip up. No problem at all. It's Old and Gold that are in front of us, and they're on the defense now, and they're bringing Azami. You know, we mentioned that a lot of people have been banning it off a lot. You know, it has become a crutch operator. Let's be honest, Pasta.
Yeah, and I'm going to be honest. You nearly saying Goldinis. I nearly tagged the wrong team in the Talent GG tweet about the last game. So, you know, we've both been there. I nearly tagged Old and Gold, but they're playing right now. So, would not be advised. I'm seeing an Ossa. I'm seeing a Glaz even as well. So, it seems to be a fairly common idea. Attacking this bomb site, get that fireplace control, open up, get those smoke grenades in. That will be the thermites of Hapful, bringing those along. And then you have the Glasses Overwatch, and they do have a Warden, however, so you do have to be wary of that possibility. But if you do have the Warden taken out of play, it's honestly kind of a perfect execute, apart from all the issues with it, you know?
Certainly is, and the thing is, the thing that I like about the Glass coming is and this is where you know, talk about the meta and stuff like that, but we'll come back to that in just a second, of course, because the first person to is saying who immediately able to collect courtesy of an EDD, and if there's going to be any player that's going to fall to that, it would be a Rash player, you know, entering into the doors and not checking their corners quite so efficiently. It does fall to an EDD, and great use of his utility. And this is the thing of course with the cap cans, and I was just about to mention the current kind of meta that we're in and whatnot. And you know, a lot of people, you know, disliked the utility meta when we were over there, and you know, had to clear things and whatnot and stuff like that. Of course, we have completely flipped to the other side of things. We are well and truly into a kind of TDM style where it's just gunfights all over the place. But that has opened up the avenue for some operators that don't quite bring the, you know, the kind of standard utility that you be kind of used to, you know, your Thermites, your Zophias and whatnot. Yeah, that's why we see the Glazes. That's why we see the Lions, the Cap Cans and whatnot. Even, you know, even the Warden and stuff like that. You know, there was a time where the Warden really wasn't played that much unless you had to specifically hard counter a Ying. Now, Warden is picked quite often. Of course, you know, 1.5 probably has something to do with that. But inside this round, GSR is able to find Kraugel, and that is at least an even the odds type kill to bring us to 4 versus 4. And it's just a case of waiting for Comma inside of Piano, waiting for the swing to come through, has the shotgun in hand, and will be ready for that opportunity if anyone comes around the doorway. GSR has the Overwatch, like you mentioned, over that bomb chassis, and just waiting for any swing and any pixel of anyone to show through that smoke and give them an opportunity to get that kill. But a minute on the clock, Pasta, what do you think is going to be happening with this?
Well, they've only got one smoke grenade left, and that realistically needs to be used for the execute. So we're kind of at a standstill at the moment, where Frankfurt need to try and get the necessary control that they need to go for this. The E1D does come through, but Matto does not instead decide to go for that kill. So the Glaz now kind of completely redundant as they head for another area of attack. JSR just going to instead try and pressure across this top floor. Does not take down the wall, and looked like that might have been a headshot, but just whiffs those bullets, and it's a calamity for Frankfurt. It's just Matto left alive. Does find one, makes it a second as well, but there's almost no time. 10 seconds left on the clock. We head into red time. Diffuser is in the pocket, but there's no one to find it. They don't have the necessary control. You just got to go for the picks, and it's just not going to happen. They have the vertical pressure, and there's Greta locking it down. Old and gold. Find another.
Yeah, pretty good stuff from Old and Gold there. Good positions at the end there, just to make sure that there was no opportunity to get the plant down. It has the plant in. Goes for a kind of relatively default position, depending, you know, if you drop that hatch. That's kind of one in play. It's a common position to drop it. But it's in the rotate. It's right in the rotate is. Unfortunately, you know, they haven't really locked off the angles. They're actually kind of dangerous because of, you're weak to the angle from the hatch, from inside the kitchen. There's also the angle from West Main that could be coming in. You've also got then the actual kind of jungle doorway. So there was quite a few doorways and whatnot that actually had an angle on it. So not the greatest play at the end there for that, but you know, it's a 1v2 situation. The best you can really do is just try your best and see if you can get something out of it, because you're never expected to win those 1vx's. It is always worth a try just to see if they can do it. But they don't. So fortunately, Old and Gold are able. Unfortunately for Frankfurt's things, they are Old and Gold are able to pick up another round, and it's 4-3. So it's looking pretty even now, Parthan. It's looking like things are going to start to get a little bit more competitive as we head into the latter stages of this fixture.
Yeah, absolutely. We're seeing Old and Gold well and truly switched on now, I think is fair to say. And Frankfurt, they're going to need to put up a bit of a better fight, obviously. It's only been one round in the attack. We can't necessarily base our entire judgment off of that one round. But what we did see of it, they seemed indecisive, and they didn't properly commit to their execute, to their strategy, and that's kind of what fell apart. And again, we're seeing a bit of an off-meta pick. This one a little bit more than last time, though. We've got Satan bringing Fuse, which is honestly kind of perfect considering their name and the reputation that the Fuse has in the Siege community. But let's not talk about that now, because we've had ML down, Greta taken out entirely by JSR on that entry. This is looking to be a very pacey approach.
It certainly is, and they have a mirror window overwatching into the library, and they still drop a couple of players who just could not wait 2 seconds. They had to swing. They just couldn't sit still for a second. It was just unfortunate. Another kill comes through. It's Kraugel this time to get the kill. And we're in a 4 versus 4 scenario. Emil is still down, like we mentioned before, but hopefully someone can recover them at some point. Comma downstairs inside a bar has an opportunity to find the feet of someone inside a mudroom, but can't quite find any shots and not enough to get any damage onto anyone, though. Thinks that there could still be an avenue of a push to come through from that side, but it won't be coming as of yet. All of the attackers are on the top floor at this moment in time, and the nade in hand as well from Matto, who's just trying to clear out library and see if they can get an opportunity to go through there. Matto, of course, already onto the double digits, 10 kills and 3 deaths within the server so far, but is not going to be getting another one in this round as Kraugo is able to put him into the dirt as GSR with another one. Satan finds a kill using the fuse charge on Emil, and look at that. You mentioned it before with the fuse, it does come through. A couple of good kills, of course, in the comma. Feeling the pressure at the top of the blue staircase and opting to drop back down towards site to try and reinforce that area inside the mud.
Yeah, absolutely. We're seeing man advantage for Frankfurt. JSR is going to look to increase that. So they find kill onto Stizzy. It's now just Comma in a 1 versus 3 situation. Plenty of time that Frankfurt have to work with as well. So this one should be unwinnable for the defender. But there's a nice pick to start things out as the the cluster charges start to rain down onto the bomb site. The area completely unplayable for the time being, as Comet now trying to find a new area. As the hatch drop comes through and the cluster charges ring out, it's going to be hiding the noise of that diffuser going down. Now they're aware. It's a fairly default position. They've got the claymores. They can now hold this from outside. There's a reason why it's default, and it's just because it's such a powerful position when you're in it, and Satan doesn't even allow it to get that far. It's 5 rounds to 3 now, as that's a much better attack from the side of Frankfurt.
Yeah, miles better, and of course we mentioned it right at the start. You specifically brought up the fact that we were going to see a fuse, and it was played to great effect there. Kill coming off of it, and even just using it as a distraction and interference to make sure they can get the plant down, and not having a diffuser sound going out was enough to get them the round. Of course, then the ACOG as well. We didn't speak about the fact that it has an ACOG on that gun. Now, of course, in AK-12, you don't get that on Ace, you get that on Fuse, and really well done. Holds the angle, waits for the player to come through the door, and was able to get that kill right at the end. Frankfurt look relatively comfortable. If they continue rounds like that, then I think they'll take them. I think they will take this map. But Golden Gold have been in it. They've definitely been sniffing around those rounds.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to see a repeat of the site. Golden Gold running it back. There's mixed opinions about running it back inside of comp games. Sometimes people they go, they've learned a bit Golden Gold from that previous time, but at the same time, it can sometimes just be throwing everything at the wall, hoping it sticks. And there's always that famous definition of insanity, possibly quoted to Einstein. I remember in our call stream the other day, there was a bit of a heated debate about that, so we won't go into it. But, just doing the same thing over and again, expecting different results. And it seems like it's a fairly similar lineup. I'm not necessarily noticing anything that jumps out at me that's different from Golden Gold.
Yeah, it seems like they're going to go pretty much the same idea. It's the same site and whatnot, so they're going to try and go for that again and see if they can put up that. Actually, is it the same site? Actually, just yes, it is. Yes. I was correct, and I was just making sure. I was keeping everybody alert in chat at least. Still holding on to that mirror window though is the Azami, and there will be a little pressure coming in from that window on to the office balcony, and it's coming from the line. And they've brought the line quite often on the attack. On either side we've seen it, but it's not really been that beneficial. It's not really been that beneficial. And the thing is the line ones you really need to get the most out of the pick. You really need to try and time it with your entries to make sure that you're pushing in as the players would be having to stand still. Right on the reverse angle gets the kill onto Sail. Knew they were going to be there. Pre-fire it, pops the head off, and I'm going to drop the hatch and go back to site. Not interested in taking any more gunfights. That's enough for me for this round. I'm just going to rest inside of bar. I've done my bit. There is now 2 minutes on the clock, and they're down to 4 members for Frankfurt.
Yeah, 4 members for Golden Gold though now, as well as JSR does find a bit of a response. Takes out Comma, they're in the clutch the last time around. This time not going to make it that far. Half the round has gone by now, and we've kind of hit a little bit of a standstill. We've got utility coming through in the form of those frag grenades from JSR. We're getting information onto the bomb site as well, and the Flores Yasi Reteros, which can just be so useful at taking away that utility, making sure they know exactly what is going to be going down. on the bomb site. They've got the Maverick, who's opened up holes into connector as well, which means that they should be fairly good to go for this plant now, as long as they have that upstairs control. C4 comes through, shot out, no, not even, but doesn't find the catch anyway. Kraugel, though, does find one, taking out JSR, and there's more damage coming the other way. Matto finds one, makes the second as well, a crispy clean headshot onto Greta. And now with 30 seconds left on that fuse, we've got a 3 versus 2 chat.
No, I'm not often lost for words, but I am lost for words as to how that even occurred. I don't know where Old and Gold were. I don't know how that happened with the diffuser going down, but what not? They're going to try and retake this. There's only 60 seconds on the clock, though. Matto's hungry for it. They'll get himself a triple on the round. Satan is down at the same time, and it's a 2 versus 1 technically, but there's not going to be an opportunity to get a kill yet. As Emil was able to at least get one onto save, gets it finished off, and Hatfault is able to collect that final kill on the double window, but Pasta is going on. Where were Old and Gold? I have no idea what happened. They hop in the wind, they get the drone in, Rotero just goes in, checks closet, there's no one on the mirror. Great, fancy. Whew. Let's go in, let's just hop in the window, get a plant down. There's no one on the vertical, there's no one on the hatch, there's nothing there. There's a C4 there for denial, which didn't land correctly. So whether they were hinging their entire defense on that C4, not an ideal scenario, but it was great execution from the attackers. They seen that gap in the defense, they seen there was no one in the closet, they seen there was no one on the hatch, and they were like, yep, let's go for it, let's execute, and we'll get that down, and there's no chance you're going to retake that in that situation. It just was never going to happen. And Frankfurt are looking pretty comfortable. They're on match point, and they look to try and run away with this. Of course, you've got Matto on 13 kills, but on the other side of things, Greta, 12 and 6, trying their damnedest to pull the rest of the team through this.
Yeah. Absolutely, and, you know, this might be a little bit of a tangent, but now that we've kind of in this prep phase here, we were talking at the very start of this match about some lineup changes, and there's just one thing I want to point out as well. You might be wondering, who in the world are 1EC Frankfurt? That is actually Nerf Minor. They found an org. Eventually, after like 2 seasons of Talent League have gone by, they finally got one. And yeah, you were going to talk about the Old and Gold lineup as well.
Yeah, I'm actually not 100% sure who's came in. I think, is it Greta that's came in? I think so. I don't recognise the name, at least from the last time anyway. And I know that Bikini was on this roster. I'm assuming that he's dropped out or can't play in this particular game, but I'm not 100% sure what's went on in the background. But yeah, slightly different roster from Old and Gold, who haven't had great performances in the last few weeks, so it's understandable if there is, with the changes to the roster. I'm not surprised to see that. They currently aren't sitting in the greatest position. They need points today, ideally, and it doesn't look like they're going to get it. The thing is between these two teams, they're actually pretty well matched up. They're both on 6 points. They're both in a position where they both want to get the win, and they're happy to go for it, but it's not really going for them right now, Old and Gold. So it's looking a bit more one-sided. Frankfurt will look comfortable. Old and Gold will, I think, I mentioned it earlier that they would rue the day of missing in those early rounds, that they had the option to win, and they didn't quite convert them. It's just unfortunate if that does come back to bite them, but we're on match point, and we've already lost the glass of JSR, so at least Old and Gold have some foothold in this round, and they're on their defense, and I'm really hoping to see some in the latter stage of this round.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, just touching on it as well, Stizzy's had to sort of step in at the last moment, the team's manager, because Gecko could not make it for reasons that are not known to me. However, so this could be another reason that Old and Gold aren't necessarily, hitting their stride and being the most comfortable. They are having to play with an emergency substitute. Obviously, Stizzy, great player in their own right. We've seen them many times before, and especially in Talent League. And Greta, though, does come back to find another. So 3 versus 5 now. Frankfurt might just have this 3 points opportunity delayed for another time, because Kraugel finds out a beautifully long angle there in the swing. So 2 versus 5 now. Nades come through, can't connect. 1 minute remaining. Matto, I don't think they're aware of this position next to the window, but the kill doesn't come through. Satan does find a response. That's Greta going down. 13 and 7 now. Still a ridiculous scoreline. We're not going to be able to find any more picks inside of this round. 45 seconds, and Frankfurt, that time is starting to tick slowly away.
Certainly is. We're now down to almost the last 30 seconds here, but Satan seems to be on the hunt. They know there's a player upstairs, and they're just playing that corner, and I'm going to spot them and get the kill, so 2 versus 3 scenario. And I was just about to say that I am a little bit concerned that it is Matto that's left alive, of course, for the side of Frankfurt, and because they've just hit such heights so far, 13 and 4, and if there's any player that can bring it back from the clutches, he has a pistol in the hand, just trying to find the kill through those floor. We're desperate to try and force it, but not able to connect. Emil is able to get the reverse angle, gets the kill onto Satan, and the drop will come from Matto, but it's not going to be too beneficial as of yet. But the line on the ground, prone gets the kill onto Emil, tries to spray through the wall, but is not going to be able to do anything, can't win the round out, eventually is killed off by Emil, and a little bit chaotic at the end there, but Odin Gold get it across the finish line with that round.
What? The final, like, 15 seconds of that round just kind of went crazy. I don't know. Both teams got a bit silly, I guess you could say.
Yeah, it's definitely a choice to be challenging the reverse angle through the vertical,
with a pistol,
and then to switch to the pistol. Same choices. But you know, we can't criticize too much. It happens when you get into the last 15 seconds of a match. You hear that when you hear that announcer come through, you go, oh, you know what, we need to go, and that's where mistakes are made because you start to rush, and that's when the defenders have you at their mercy, and they're able to get that round on the board. 6-4. It's not completely, you know, panic stations yet for Frankfurt. You know, I think they've still got one more round where they can kind of, you know, not be too sweaty and you know, not be too worried about it, but we want to get this locked off and get this one out, you know, as soon as possible.
Absolutely. Obviously, 7-4 is still a respectable scoreline. It's not the 7-3 they could have had, but, you know, even if you just get 3 points, it would still help. They're currently in 6th place right now, if you include the results of the last game. So, no, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong team. They're in 7th place. Both these teams on 3 points, but because of the round differential, Odin Gold currently have them beat by 2 rounds. That's all it is. So these 3 points for either of these teams, or just the points that these teams get from this game, is huge. Especially heading into the second half of the season.
Oh yeah, certainly is. This is one of the decider ones. This is where you want to get your season up and running, where you can start to, you know, get a little bit of a gap, start to get closer to the top, and start to fight for those places. But you know, it doesn't look like it's going to go his way currently. It looks as though for this defensive round, though, they're in a pretty good position. They have the mirrors, and this is what I was, you know, hoping to see, the use of the mirror, because when Mira's on the board, you know, it's just banned so much, people don't really strat for Mira because they never really play it because they're just so used to not playing with it. It's kind of like the way Thatcher is. Even though Thatcher's not banned anymore, you don't really see Thatcher brought. You know, Thatcher's open right now. Let's play Thatcher because for years and years and years, been banned away. So it doesn't really happen with that. You know, the exception would be Valk. Valk's one of those ones where, you know, banned quite a lot, but still has a high pick rate when they're actually through on the board because Valk is just so strong in her own right. First kill though, it has came through, and Koma was the first to fall there. I believe it's Half Relic collected that one, and Odin Gold are on the back foot a little bit, but they still have a good hold in terms of the sight and the map control in their area at least. And they're just going for a rotate round Frankfurt. They're going to go back to that main breach. They did have a crack at it originally with the Maverick to try and open up some angles, but didn't quite get the greatest holes created there, and didn't really get the breach open at least. And you know, they haven't brought a hard breacher, which is certainly one of the, you know, the stranger choices. We've seen we've seen a few tonight. I think, you know, the Jaeger shotgun and whatnot, and that's probably.
Well, they have a Maverick.
They have a Maverick, and they also have the Fuse. So I mean, I'll let them away with that.
What on earth?
Yeah, I've got questions for that. No, I think trying to be a little bit too cheeky. Goes for a bit of a pre-fire, hit fire through the wall, is killed off, and Odin Gold just take two kills, no problem, freeze your leg, and they're in the lead somehow here.
Yeah, and Emil's retaking the top floor as well. It's going to be Baddies best again for Frankfurt as Kraugel doubles down, takes out Satan. Hatful does double down, finds their second of the round, but it's only them and JSR, combining for a total of 15 kills and 15 deaths between them. So this could be that standout moment that we see from these players, clutching this 2 versus 4 situation to close out the game. Greta going to get a bit aggressive, but does not win the gunfight. Dips back a little bit, don't want to give away too much, as now those goo mines go off, give a little bit of information to the defense of Olden Gold of where this attack is coming from. With the last 12 seconds now on the clock, that's a lovely pick from Greta, and it's going to be all 12 here, Chams. Again, this is going to be my 24th round of Chalet.
Yes, I would not be surprised if you want to take a lie down after this one in between. I think this is your last one for the night, is it not? Yeah, it will
Yeah,
be.
you're with Arya next, so that
No,
should
I
be
certainly
fun.
am. So, and you know what? I've a sneak suspicion it's probably going to be on Chalet as well. I've a feeling. I've just got a tingling. My spider sense is tingling that it's going to be on Chalet. Alas, we're still on this one here. 6-5 is the score. And Frankfurt looking a little bit shaky in the last couple of rounds. A few mistakes that have been capitalised on by Old and Gold, and they'll be happy with that result so far. Of course, you've got Greta. Sorry, I'm just laughing at the the pop up there in the corner. I do appreciate that. Epsilon, shout out to our producer there for not disabling the pop up, but it's okay. It happens. We'll continue on. Of course.
It's not on stream.
That's all
It's
good.
not
It's
on
all
stream.
good. It's all good.
There you
It's all
go.
good. It's okay. It's
Yeah,
all good. It's all good. It's my
All
fault
of
then.
Twitch
It's my
chat
fault.
is gonna think that you're just crazy.
Yeah, I'm hallucinating pop-ups here. You know, it was happening at the weekend, and you know, I'm on my 4th or 5th day of casting, so you can excuse me if there's a few lapse in concentration. We'll say.
Yeah, and thinking about that Thatcher as well in the previous round that you mentioned, we're not seeing them again. But then again, the only reason you kind of bring a Thatcher, especially on Chalet, is to counter a Kaid. And well, because Thatcher's open, Alder Gold just don't really care for that. Obviously, you can't really. There's no electrification at all. So what does a Thatcher do? Disable a bulletproof camera? Cool, but you could just, nade it or something.
Mm-hmm.
There's no guarantee that the EMP would go off anyway. There's many questions. So Thatcher, not necessarily the best, definitely situational, and Chalet, not one of his most popular maps. However, that's all that we're going to talk about that because we have a round in front of us, Cham. Round number 12, possibly the last one that we see today, but it could be just the beginning. We might see that overtime situation. Looking at the HP though, Stizzy has taken a healthy chunk of damage. Well, actually, it's an unhealthy chunk of damage, straight off the rip. And Frankfurt could use to work that to their advantage.
I mean, that's been pretty much all that's happened this round. You know, we've been a minute and 20 seconds into it, or a minute and 10 seconds even at this point, and Stizzy take that damage very early on, and nothing's really happened now. A minute and 45 seconds, Greta does get the first kill on the round, and it's Hatfeld that does fall to that kill. With the SMG-11 nonetheless, Greta's having an absolute stormer, 16-7 so far. Krauger's going to get another one with the DMR this time onto Satan. And Frankfurt are looking a little bit like they're struggling right now. They're not looking too great. They're dropping players in 1v1s and whatnot. They're not quite playing together. We've seen a couple of great attacks coming out from them, and it's not really been that much to hope for since then. And we've not really seen anything coming out from them. But Old and Gold will have to be credited. Of course, they have been able to land quite a few kills, and Greta really has taken this game by the scruff of the neck and getting those kills. And kills don't always win games in Siege. We know exactly how it's played. It's a very strategic game, but they are important nevertheless. And they're a good byproduct, of course. It's always good to have someone that can kill people, but no, that's not what you want to happen. Unfortunately, Koma has left the game. Whether or not that is a connection issue, that's unfortunate, but the round will continue on. 45 seconds on the clock, and we're in a 4 versus 3 scenario in favour of Old and Gold still.
Yeah, I just had to check my internet connection, obviously, considering the issues that have been occurring tonight with a certain ISP that we're not going to talk about. So, looking towards the execute, it just seems like Frankfurt have just kind of stalled out here yet again.
Yeah.
They've got 15 seconds left. Vertical sort of happening, but not really. It seems like they're just going to have to abandon it. They don't even have the diffuser. Sale does find one, but they're just going to have to go for picks at this point, Cham, it seems like. And Kraugel going to get aggressive through the bathroom. Actually, Sale does pick up the diffuser, but there's 2 quick picks. JSR now the only player remaining, and we do go to overtime here. It's not going to require 12 to close this out. We need to see at least 14.
Yeah, of course. I think someone has just heard that, got the word through the grapevine that Uncooks just came off Chalet. You know what? We're gonna go all the way. Yeah, it's almost like there's been a gentleman's agreement in the background that, you know what, Uncooked, you're gonna have to suffer for this one. You're gonna take all of the rounds on Chalet, and to be fair, I'm having a good time. It's been enjoyable. It's been some fun siege, some questionable siege at times, but that does happen. We are just going to very briefly take a little bit of time just to sort out the player that has disconnected, of course, and they'll get that sorted, and then we'll get back into the lobby. But just discussing that previous round, was almost a position for Frankfurt to steal that. They had a poor
Yeah.
early round. They were on a 5-3 disadvantage, and they just looked as though they had slipped away from them. But then they bring it back, they get the diffuser down, and it looked as though they hadn't really communicated that they had that diffuser down. And because they hadn't really shown each other where it was, because I didn't actually see where the diffuser was going down. We were just watching, the gunfight inside the piano. Taking a gunfight when your teammate is going for the defuse isn't an ideal scenario to be going for. It's not ideal because it wasn't a gunfight that was necessary. They were taking the gunfight inside of bathroom. It's great to get the kill, but at the same time, they could have just covered the planter. Cover the planter, get the planter down. You're on 0-0. You have to plant the diffuser. It has to go down for you to win the round. And if all the defenders have to do is just kill that planter, and that's that. It's happy days to win the round, and that's exactly what Olden Gold did. And now we're all the way uncooked.
Yeah, that overtime is going to come through after we just have the pause. You've got the tech timeout just coming through while we try to get the player back into the lobby, which indeed does come through now. Connor's back in the game, so hopefully we will have just fairly shortly the go-ahead, just making sure everything is all nice and sorted. So looking towards the sides here, we have a defensive start for Frankfurt. They obviously started on the defense, got a 4-2 half. Where do you see this going from there?
Statistically, of course, they had a better half on the defense. So you would think that they would take that. However, that is a punishing mental game that they've just went through. They've just been on match point for 3 tries, and they've not been able to convert at all. So this is really the crucial point. Someone's going to have to win an attack to win this game. So as it stands, they ideally want to get this locked off, get their defensive done, and then they can, if they lose their attack, they'll come back onto the defense on that overtime. The last, very, very last round, they'll come back onto the defense, and they've had a much better defense than what they have for their attack. So they will want to try and get this locked off. They want to try and get it done. After not getting it across the line the last 3 times, they've brought a couple of operators that are, heavy on utility. You've got the Goyle, you've got the Zami and Bandit as well, and the double. Interesting point to talk on is the double electrocution with the Cade and the Bandit. What do you think thinking there, Pastor?
Well, it's going to be used just to try and take out those tricks, because we do see the Thatcher being brought along now. That sort of electrification strategy is being used by the defense. He is making an appearance. So
certainly is, and if there's going to be a time to bring out the Thatcher, it's when people are bringing the double electrocution, so they can just completely get rid of it, no problem at all. It doesn't matter, you got 2 operators that's going to block this wall. Who cares? I've got an EMP, no problem at all. And I actually think there could be a bit of an oversight from the defenders forgetting that Thatcher is available, because they've just, brought the Thatcher right away. But look at this, there's a Bandit tricking, Satan is on it, and Stizzy wants nothing to do with it, doesn't even want to try and challenge it, and they're going to go for the rotate round. But the thing is, if there is good coordination with the defense here, they should make the call for Satan to go for the rotate as well, because there is only a couple of, I was about to say there's only 1 hard breach, but actually notice at the end there is, of course, Comma, who has Ace. So there's 2 hard breachers available, so they can at least afford to lose a couple. They can afford to, double up, and it's an interesting choice to actually dedicate this full rotation round instead of maybe bringing the ace round and guaranteeing getting that main wall open and to provide that pressure. The yellow pings here are coming onto the defensive side here, but they're not going to get a kill yet, as it's actually going to be hatful to find Greta. The pinch was coming through from Kraugle, but the pings are coming into the person inside of Kitchen as well, and they just can't seem to convert it. There's a couple of players inside of there as well, and GSR is going to fall this time. Kraugle's going to fall this time to GSR, and now we're in a 5 versus 3 scenario in favour of Frankfurt. They look relatively comfortable on this defense.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's good time wasted from that hard breach denial as well, and the players upstairs making sure that they get maximum usage out of this roam, out of just every piece of utility that they have. Still 3 C4s in pocket as well, which could be absolutely monstrous when it comes down to those final few seconds, you do have the Vulcan canisters just starting to be popped now as well. So they burn for 20 seconds, which means we might see an execute, coming through the last 30 seconds. That's when those C4s can reign supreme in the chaos of it all. So this is going to be now crunch time for the attack of Old and Gold. They're in a 3 versus 5. They have to get some picks here. The MPs do ring out as the breach starts to get open. No Kaid trick coming through, so the C4 will come through from Satan. Nothing found, but it's the kill instead. Comma going down. That is going to be your ace off the board. Emil does find a trade, takes down Sail, but with 10 seconds left nearly, it's just going to be... They just have to rush in at this point, and this should be Frankfurt getting this final kill. The C4 comes through from Hapful, and Stizzy just left outside the breach. Can't get anything done, and that's match point again for Frankfurt.
Certainly is. It looked like a very comfortable round on the defense. Pretty much the same kind of holds as what they went for the last time they went to this site. It was really well done, and I'm a little bit disappointed in the way that that worked out just at the end, because they had the information on the bandit, knew that they were playing behind that, and they had a drone in sight actually, and they just didn't capitalize on information. They had so much information at all. They let the bandit push up onto the breach, get the kill. Just unfortunate. That is the way it worked out for them. Old and Gold are looking like they could get back into this, I think, on the attack, by the way. On the defense, sorry. I think that they have a chance, and I think we're going to see all of the rounds on overtime, to be honest.
Max OT?
Oh yes, I can definitely hear it in the air, I think.
Well, it's possible. It's certainly possible. Every time I see Max OT now, though, I do think of that series, the Saint Speedboat Team 86 series from the Open Qualifiers. That was all 45 rounds in a best of 3. It's certainly not going to happen here, but we have had a pretty long day so far. We've had 12 rounds and now potentially 15, definitely 14. And, well, we'll see what happens later, because the last game, for those of you who are thinking, oh, I might turn the stream off, don't, because you've got to finish this one. And then you've got Feria de Malaga versus LS Academia Spirit after that, which is kind of a battle for the top of the table.
Yeah, it will actually be a banger, to be honest.
So
at least
bangers all the way through. You don't want to miss any of the games that we have tonight. And if you missed the first one, hopefully Trippin gets himself in gear and gets a VOD out before too long. So, check the YouTube channel for that. Promote the socials. We've got the Twitter, we've got Talent GG as well, a little stats project that brought to you by yours truly. But Sales found one and JSR as well. This is very quick execute.
Wow.
And that's now a 2 versus 5. Old and Gold just falling apart here as it's 3 very quick picks for Frankfurt. This is absolute disaster as now Emil and Greta have to try and hold on as the plant's coming through as well from Satan. No C4 in pocket, and it's a flawless round to close things out. Frankfurt, they seal the deal with a very, very quick rush that Old and Gold just were not expecting. 8 rounds to 6 as we get 2 points on the board for 1EC Frankfurt. Old and Gold, they at least claim 1 point from this matchup, but man,
yeah,
that's
at least they will get one. It's a consolation as well, especially for performance, like that they brought out. You can see Greta 16 kills, 10 deaths there. I was really hoping for the big moment to come in there. I was really hoping for a 1v5 ace to get them into overtime and win it out for them. That would have been super fun, but just not to be. Frankfurt very quick on that attack, and they didn't really show us much in terms of rushes earlier on. So there was no real reason for the defense of Old and Gold to actually be suspecting that. So there was no way that they would really be thinking that would happen, and especially in that such a high pressure round. They brought it out, they brought the aggression, they get the kills, they get the win, and they take 2 points. But Old and Gold will be happy enough they at least got 1.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, every point counts when you're swimming around the bottom of the table. And that being said, though, we head from the bottom straight to the top as we have Feria de Malaga versus LS Academia Spirit. That's me done for today, but you'll have Cham and the wonderful, wonderful Aria to bring you through that one. So don't go anywhere. We'll be back in a few.
See ya.